Prinz. Freddie Prinz. But no, not that Prinz. Not the Chico and the Man Prinz. Or else he would have had to make this wine almost 50 years ago. Too soon? Huh? No, this is the other Freddie Prinz. This is one of the Rheingau's greatest producers. Freddie Prinz got his start. He actually worked for the Staatsweinguter, the state's wine, like the big state winery. I don't know if he ran things per se there, but he was a mucky muck at the Staatsweinguter, and then came back around and started a micro winery. We were there. I can't remember if I think we sold Freddie's, not 94s, maybe late 90s wines. And back then he was literally making like a single half-footer of this, a single half-footer of this, some little bits and pieces that we worked with a small importer at the time here in California. And we were immediately impressed with Freddie Prinz's wines. And you could tell he was going to be a star. And it was one of those wines when you taste wines from hot players early on. And we do this for a living. And I've been tasting world-class Riesling since the 1989 vintage, actually earlier, but en masse since the 1989 vintage. And when somebody hits it, when somebody has the touch. And we knew very early on that Freddie Prinz had the touch. So he's based in the Rheingau and owns and works with some major vineyards. I think he might rent some of them and then own others. Regardless, this guy has been hammering forever, and he is all that is right and wonderful and beautiful in the Rheingau. See, here's the deal. The Rheingau is full of several outstanding producers. Guys like Weil, Robert Weil. You're talking about Leitz, Joseph Leitz. You're talking about, but some of the top producers charge an insane amount of money for their wine. So it's really hard to get a grip on the greatest producers in the Rheingau because of the prices they charge. Some of the wines aren't quite as accessible, especially at the Kabinett and Spätlese levels. Then you have a whole group of producers in the Rheingau. It's a very storied area. It's one of the most historic wine regions in the world. So you have a scenario where you have a lot of older, super classic wineries, the ones with the big eagle on the front, and they look old school. Those wineries a lot of them produce decent wines. Some produce outstanding wines. But again, there's a bit of a mix qualitatively there. So to get a real crystalline shot at the Rheingau, you have to go to producers like Prinz. And actually, there's precious few producers like Prinz in the Rheingau. There's these two extremes, and Prinz sits like right in the middle, price-wise, but at the top of the hierarchy, qualitatively. And that's what makes these wines so damn attractive. He, as with most producers in Germany now, most of his production is dry. 80% dry to 20% sweet. I would say 30 years ago, it would have been the other way around. But times change, tastes change. And I don't know if tastes change. I think tastes were perhaps maybe forced upon a lot of consumers and a lot of restaurants. The whole concept of great fruity Riesling didn't necessarily die as it kind of got sort of forcefully pushed out. I think by, I'm going to say it, but by the Somm community, by the next generation of these producers that wanted to make their mark. And a lot of these guys weren't content making their mark with making great Kabinett and Spätlese fruity level wines. And they'll talk about, they're not, versatile with cuisine. Well, they sure were for the first 50 years they were making them. What happened? Oh no, well now there's all these Asian cuisines. Oh, lightly fruity Kabinett level Riesling with incredible acidity doesn't go with Thai food or Vietnamese food or great Szechuan Chinese food or Mexican food? Bullshit. Bull. So I'm not a huge, in case you didn't know, so I'm not a huge fan of the dry Riesling movement in Germany. I think other places in Europe are more suited to making great dry Riesling. Austria. And so it pains me when all these producers are going like 80-20 dry to sweet now, when there's so much potential for so much great fruity wine to be produced if it was properly commercialized now. But we're not in that zone. We're in a zone of dry, 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 dry. Well, I'll tell you what, We try the dry wines and the fruity wines for most of these producers. And I'd say, and not because we're old sticks in the mud, I would say qualitatively for the versatility of the wine with the food, we lean 70, 80% of the time towards the fruitier styles. And when I say fruity, I'm not talking sweet. This wine, the Prinz Riesling Kabinett Hallgartner Jungfer, is not a sweet wine. It is a lightly fruity wine. Now, I'm of the camp, like when I drink my coffee in the morning, I drink it black with about half a teaspoon of sugar. That may not sound like much, but what a half a teaspoon of sugar does from the flavor profile is, to me, it accentuates the flavor inherently within the coffee itself. So you have a situation where a little sugar, just like a little salt, increases flavor, enhances flavor. If you dump a bunch of cream in your coffee, you don't taste your coffee anymore. If you have your coffee black, you do get the true essence of the coffee, but maybe a bit severe, like, I don't know, the dry Rieslings of Germany. Come on. Little residual sugar seals the deal. Now, getting back to it again, the Rheingau is this wonderful place where you have a richer, broader feel to the wines than some of the wines in the Mosel, except for like the blue slate wines in the Mosel tend to be richer, but that's a different story of another. But these wines tend to be a little more broad-shouldered, a little richer than the Mosel wines, but not as heavy as the wines from like the Pfalz. They have a richness to them, but you also get that great, clear, almost transparent water recolor. Look at that, beautiful. And you get great tension in spite of the richness of the wines. That's what makes wines like Weil so great. Weil didn't make their reputation on Kiedrich Grafenberg Trocken. They made their reputation on Kiedrich Grafenberg Trocken Baron Auslese, Auslese, the Spätlese. The Spätlese was the wine of the vintage every year. You know, they made their reputation on these wines because this is an area of the Rheingau that has the capacity to produce rich yet scintillating wines that carry that little bit of residual sugar so beautifully. The balance is impeccable in these wines. We were we recently went to a tasting where this was one of the wines featured at the event, and we were blown away. We were completely taken aback. And not because, yeah, that's wrong. We already knew the quality of Prinz wines in the first place. But just, it's almost shocking now to have a great, beautiful, fruity, pinpoint balanced Kabinett in an event, in a tasting. They've disappeared. The dodo bird, they're disappearing. So when you get one at the event, you're like, oh, thank you. Thank you for this wine. I want like 4 bowls of Nam Khao Todd immediately.
What's Nam Khao Todd?
It is a spicy, crispy rice, sweet and sour sausage dish from the northern part of Thailand with basil and spices, and it's super delicious. And if you gave me 4 bowls of it, I could eat it right now because I got this. I got this with me. I'm armed. 8.5% alcohol, right? So you're not going to get hosed. You still taste it. 30 seconds later, a minute later, you're still enjoying the minerality, the stoniness, the peaches, just this farmer's market peach quality that you get in these wines that just perfectly ripe, just zesty and crisp. My God. I've always adored these wines. I still adore these wines. You know, we probably drink a little less like Spätlese and Auslese than we used to, huh? You know, like, I think in the 90s, early 2000s, Spätlese, Auslese was like totally in vogue, and bigger the better, more Uxla, you know, it was like the whole kind of Napa Cabernet thing, you know, inky, I don't want to see through it. And it was that way with Riesling. It was like more sugar, more richness. And that kind of all went by the wayside. But I think the market overreacted, too much dry wine out there. So what we have now is the pendulum swung, but on the other side now, we do have this small array of brilliant Kabinett wines, which, by the way, the Kabinett level wines from Germany, these lightly fruity Rieslings, have never been better. The quality for Kabinett level wine has gone through the roof in the last 10 years, because now they're no longer the afterthought. They're one of the main features of the winery as the winery sways away from sweet wines towards dry, and then this is kind of the entry point for the fruity wines. So the residual sugars are down in these wines than what they used to be. They're not trying to be Spätlese anymore, but what they are is perfectly on point Kabinett wines, very similar to the Kabinett wines that we saw early on in our careers in the late 80s into the early 90s. These wines are impeccably balanced and oh so easy to drink and oh so versatile in a number of cuisines, just like they have been for the last 50 friggin' years. I don't know, what else do I got? Oh, 96 points, Jim Suckling. Biodynamically farmed. Okay, you cool kids. Don't get your tattoos in a tither. You'll be able to buy this and feel good. You won't destroy the planet. And you'll be able to drink a whole bottle of this and still feel really, really great. 96 points, super hot price on this wine too, by the way. It retails more like in the mid-30s or so, and we're offering out today at $24.98. At 25 bucks a bottle, this is one of the great Riesling values we have in the store. Great, real, fruity Riesling. This is wonderful, wonderful stuff. I can't tell you enough how excited I am to have opened this bottle and to drink it with everyone else on the other side of the camera in the next 15 minutes. This bottle, you don't know it, but it's already gone. Click and shoot. Bye.